How does one wake up in the morning and decide to love oneself? Oh, sure, I've heard the cliches, the influencer advice on how loving yourself comes first and then everything else, blah, blah, blah. But those are just words. Words that come out of the mouths of beautiful women with perfect bodies, beautiful women with the bodies of Greek heroines and runway models. How does one wake up to the glare of a phone screen and open up to a social media page where the beauty standard has already been predetermined? How can messages of body positivity be spread around by the same homogeneous style of what a woman is supposed to look like? What is a woman? Is she determined by the fullness of her breast? Maybe it's the long waterfall of hair that cascades down a perfectly shaped back, soft, plump lips that tantalize, or is it the tight tummy that doesn't crease in the slightest when she crouches down to fix that sharp stiletto heel? Perhaps it's the roundness of her behind, a behind that captures the male gaze and has created an entire industry revolving around sexualized bodies and the male fantasy. Is that what I have to live up to in order to be considered a proper woman? Who said? Whose standards am I to live up to if not my own? And why do societal pressures seep into the labyrinth of my brain, flooding it with insecurity? My hip dips stem my sides, and my legs are not long like theirs. Was it always like this, though? Did little girls always compare themselves to one another when their bodies looked different? Sure, everyone tells you that not everyone is the same, that everyone is special. From an early age, little girls everywhere are fed that everyone is special and we all have to accept that. I want to believe it too. Hell, I had to believe it, and I was happy. I was happy because it didn't matter what anyone else thought. My innocence created the perfect bubble of oblivion, a bubble of possibility and imagination that elevated me high above the self hate and doubt. The bubble that allowed me to float up and be closer to the realms of dreams of talking animals, dancing princesses, and a prince to admire the beauty I once clutched tightly to my heart. The bubble didn't last long. It was the perfect world when it did, but it was later popped by the looming horizon of adolescence that later enshrouded that sweet, carefree little girl in an opaque blanket of anxiety and the self doubt she once floated over in her chaste bubble. But that must change. I can beat myself up about it, curse the mirror, and do my best to change it, but there's no remedy. I wonder, then I look and I realize my body works every day to keep me alive. It's a miracle, really, like a perfectly crafted machine, a blessing, a machine that needs its fuel to run the distance every day, fuel to be burned through the critical thinking of a precious brain, and sure, hip dips too, but they form the mosaic of who I am, a perfect one. Little girls around the world must be taught that they cannot change who they are physically, but they can change the way they think about who they are. Acceptance and empowerment for little girls everywhere so they can realize that a woman is not the perfectly shaped fantasy of a man's standard. Can I run outside without the pressures of the male gaze tailing behind me as if I were game? The scheming hunters with his eyes on the vulnerable deer, so he thinks. Running for me, not for him. When he whistles and remarks in my direction, he expects me to turn around. How dare he, I think. Does he know my age? Would he flinch if he did? How dare he? The obscene whistling and the barking of a mad dog expects a reaction. Does he want me to bat my eyes? Give him the pleasure of the flash of my pearly white smile? What did he expect to receive with that gesture? That gesture that the feminist movement has been fighting since the beginning, trailing back to the 1900s with the right to vote. Sure, how can I compare such a revolutionary movement to such a small aspect of the life I've lived? Oh, he was just complimenting you. Take it and move on. Take it? The catcalling, the jeering and the objectification of a body that does not belong to his threatening eyes. The privilege he just revealed calling me out like a meat in a market. It happens every day. Women in every obscure corner of the world being put through micro harassments. No matter how small they are, they're always there. That's pretty good for a girl. You throw like a girl. Go back to the kitchen. Make me a sandwich, dishwasher. But it's just a joke, right? We must change the ways we view women all across the world as inferior. It's using language that belittles women, making them smaller in the eyes of a big man, is wrong. And through the education of men and women, we can change that. Put our girls in school, trust in their wits, and invest in their education all across the world. And trust our boys too. Work on educating them and making the next generation of our boys kinder and able to handle a woman with ambition. I renounce this man's world and I want to remind women that they are strong and we do incredible things. I renounce the stereotypes and the ill thinking views of women because what they can do, we can do better and with more love. A mother's love, a CEO's guidance, a gymnast's strength, and a soldier's courage. All women, all inspiring and carving the way for the next generation, a generation of excellence and beauty. Because a woman is not measured by the width of her thighs or the shape of her belly. A woman is grace, she's beauty, and she's a beacon in the storm of adversity. Thank you.
The power of a stereotype is something that is often overlooked in our society today. Over the course of my life personally, I have become victim to stereotypes that have influenced my identity in the world, and I'm not alone. When people think of the Middle East, they usually picture something like this: a war stricken part of the world that is primitive and highly religious. The American school system has done a really poor job at teaching students about other parts of the world. Just take a look at these videos.
Can you point out where Iran is on this map?
Oh, hell no, I can't.
So I'm just curious if you can put an X on Iran.
Oh goodness. It's that one.
It is not that one. It's actually right over there.
I've tried to kind of follow along with it, but I'm not trying to follow along with it. I'm interested, but like, I don't know.
Not worried then?
A little worried. They would hit New York first though, so that sucks.
You name a country on this map.
Asia or Africa?
That's a continent.
Oh, okay.
Can you name a country in Africa?
No.
Instead of getting upset over the ignorance some may have, I realize how hard it is to even form a different opinion when all you hear is this.
Tonight, new warnings about more attacks like the New Year's assault on the world's largest embassy, the fortress-like U.S. compound in Baghdad, repelled for now by a massive show of U.S. military force.
A horrifying scene of carnage and destruction at Turkey's busiest airport. 3 suicide attackers carrying out a deadly siege on Tuesday night.
We put all that is from the Middle East into a box, and rather than looking at it from all of its angles, we choose to ignore it.
With being from Turkey, I have been on the receiving end of many stereotypes. Whether it be asking me if my grandparents live on a desert, where in reality they live here, thinking I'm visiting a place that looks like this, where in reality I'm going to a place that looks like this, or telling me that I don't look Middle Eastern because I don't have the typical qualities of what a Middle Eastern girl looks like.
Like mentioned earlier, I'm not alone in this. Immigrants coming to the United States experience this on a daily basis. It is my job to disrupt these stereotypes by teaching those around me and to have a future that is more accepting. In a political sense, stereotyping has the power to form incorrect public opinion. If exercised by the majority of people, this could cause wrong political decisions that are unfairly supported due to lack of knowledge of the situation. The Middle East is a cultural mosaic that embodies many cultures and lifestyles. Stereotypes put all that is from the region in one category. As time goes on, it is clear that there is truth behind certain stereotypes. What is important to take away, though, is that we must acknowledge cultures in depth rather than make judgments at face value. We must work together to disrupt stereotypes and make society today more accepting.
So I wrote a poem called Rooted in Culture. I look around and often I find that I'm the only melanin student in the class. You want my opinion, but I do not represent the whole race. Discussing topics, everyone staring in my direction. Are you uncomfortable if we talk about slavery? I'm not uncomfortable, as I'm rooted in culture. Different, yet everyone seems intimidated by my intelligence or my speech. What am I supposed to sound like? Slang, ebonics, patois? Then you wouldn't understand me. I need to let my voice be heard, yet I'm muted by racial remarks. The N-word that has degraded us for centuries flows so easily from your tongue. Should I be offended? I'm not offended, as I'm rooted in culture. History of shackled wrists and ankles. The ships unloading at every stop. Segregation, civil rights marches, lynches, and beatings. We have suffered, yet they say racism doesn't exist. But you see my pain as anger. I'm not angry, as I'm rooted in culture. We're not given many choices. Education and opportunities are not the same. Do Black lives not matter to you? Our houses are burning. We are crying out for justice, yet we are labeled as thugs and rioters, imprisoned for the same crimes for longer sentences. Where is my voice? This is my voice, as I am rooted in culture.
So after analyzing the conceptual and real-life circumstances surrounding the idea of redemption, I want to share with you all a poem I decided to write the night of the Capitol insurrection. While this presentation has been a way for me to intellectually grasp the realities of the current political occurrences, this poem reflects my raw emotional reactions. And I feel that if we attempt to connect our rational reactions to our emotional reactions, then we can truly become more effective members of our democracy. So my poem's titled Betsy's White Flag Dripped in Blood. Her sole purpose was to soldier along, haunted by the ghosts who had passed the baton. Her perilous pursuits and treacherous tenacity had played the desires of society into the symbols of suppression and deceit, idiocracy, allegiance to the pledge, which is rooted beneath Cain's shadow. Her legs never stop through her destructive path, but as she's chased by carnivorous creatures of the night, a question grasps her uninformed head. Can her actions inspire or offend? Finally, her journey comes to an end, to a garden believed by many to be pretend. The sun's heat embraced her like an old friend. What will emerge once her body is fried? I believe America will ascend.
Can I ask you a question? They asked, do they know? I know what the question is going to be. I want to answer, I'm not. Because if I didn't, they'd know I'm one of them. But if I am, is it that bad? When I first heard of it, I thought it was amazing. It may have been the excitement, but I felt identified. That was until my phone said otherwise. Dude, that's gross. It's your choice. It was then my feelings turned from excitement to survival. The internet became a war zone. As soon as I felt comfortable to say something, I'm reminded that we haven't reached a white flag. Bombs of insults strike, and I retreat. No one does anything to stop this war. As much as I have the freedom to defend, they have the freedom to attack. And who is going to stop this war? The people above me? Above me, they don't care. What they care about isn't me. What they care about is themselves. At this point, the attacks, the words, the bullying, it all has become a second language. One used to paint the worst thing one could be. But for me, that thing is simply me. If they could stick to the rules of the war, I'd have an equal fight. But they oppose their own First Amendment right. They say separate him from them. But all I see is using him as an excuse. It's too much to take. The secret I harvest inside is eating me alive. I can't even handle the simple question. I can only assume it's the question. And what if it is? Then what do I say? If I say yes, I might turn into the 40%. And if I say no, I'm ignoring being part of the 8. Because it doesn't stop with this. Depending on my answer, we play a game. Not on my rules or the rules of violent war. We play the rules established by the norms of people we never even met. And it leads from one rope to another, each a different challenge, until finally, I fall and they win. And I know I'm not the only one. But why am I the only one? No one else is like me. At least that's what I see. Because they teach me to be normal, as if we know what normal means. They teach me to be this way, and we attack the ones born this way. I'm lost in my head. It's all a big doodle, a game of snakes and ladders with no certain plan, no certain support. And my one answer depends on choice between my future fight or my early defeat. And if I really want to answer, then I have to ask, who did you vote for? If I want to feel safe, I have to ask. Because depending on that answer, I know what they'll say. Because it's not the norm to be like me, and it's not the norm to accept. But now my mind has wandered and I've lost all sight. I look confused, but I prepare myself to recite. No, I'm just like you. Can I ask you a question? They ask again. I take a deep breath and cross my fingers and I say, okay. The question wasn't even what I thought they'd say. They asked for the time, but I had to make sure I was safe. Okay, so basically what this poem was like kind of like means, it's about the declination of like mental health in the LGBT youth community. Is my Wi-Fi like not working? I feel like I'm like lagging. Okay, was like the declination of like mental health in the LGBT youth community, and it's supposed to show how like violence against like queer teens creates internal like paranoia and anxiety, and that comes with like internal like the intersections with like religion and government and like political parties and like the sovereignty that like so basically one of the big issues that I had been like seeing when I was doing my research is that a lot of the hate that comes from it, it's like coming from religion, and people think that there's like no structural place to like
feel protected, like because the the government isn't like that separated from religion as the First Amendment should like say. So it's kind of like I was putting some kind of like some little facts. Also I put some numbers in there. So in one of the lines, I put like if I answer this, I might become one of the 40%. And the 40% kind of means that out of the teen homelessness like population, 40% of them are queer youth, but queer youth only makes up 8% of the population. So that's very like weird to see how there's a greater like there's a disproportionate amount of homeless gay teens or like lesbian teens compared to straight teens if they're like such a small part of the population. And basically how I came up with this like that at first, it's like, can I ask you a question? And that's the name of the whole thing. And basically it's a thing that I'm in the like spectrum club at school, or like now it's called Prism. And it's kind of like for LGBTQ like teens and like youth. And we kind of talk about like some things that we all relate to, some issues that are happening throughout the world. And one of the things that I was like doing while I was researching is I was talking to most of my peers that are in that same like group. And it's kind of funny how when before like coming out, a lot of people, they get asked like, oh, can I ask you a question? And it can be like the easiest thing, like what's the time, like it says at the end of the poem. But we kind of go into like this internal narrative of like, oh, they know, oh my god, my secret's out, or I'm not going to get accepted. And it's kind of just like internal paranoia. And this could all be avoided if in society it was just accepted and there's like structural, like actual like changes made so that everybody felt protected to like be themselves, and this wouldn't like be going on.
So just to begin, before I introduce my actual, project, is the background on the situation that I'm, doing it on. So many of you may not know that in Peru, for the past 3 months, they've had three different presidents. So it's a bit of like a political crisis going on there. So there was first Vizcarra, and the next week they changed to Merino, and then they changed to Sagasti. And Sagasti is the president right now for the most part until the next election. And he called for a 15-day quarantine starting the 1st of February. And that quarantine is the main topic of why I created this project, which is a Twitter account in which people can use their voices to express themselves on their opinions on the political crisis, as well as the 15-day quarantine. So in the bio of this Twitter account, it says it's an official account to express different opinions, and I said we're here to learn, not to hate. And it's called La Voz del Perú, which means the Peruvian voice. And what I wanted to do this because I wanted to show activating the power of and the law of social media, that reciprocal action can cause change. So what I mean by that is, if we can see, you're gonna see how it worked out, but I wanted to create a way for people to be heard, to express themselves, to just vent. The good thing about the platform Twitter is that you can make the comments that you make private, you can make them public, however you want. So it's really versatile, and it's important to just see opinions and perspectives. And on the top right, you can see that I started with, hello, how's everyone? We wanted to know, what do you guys think of the 15-day quarantine? So the objectives of this, which they sound kind of, crazy next to each other, showing the reciprocal power of social media and combating radical political division in Peru. So in Peru, of course, there's going to be, political division because of the political crisis. And it's really important to, combat that in a way that's non-violence, which is social media. So far, how I promoted myself is I would go under news channels on Twitter, and I would put my ad and say, hello everyone, whoever wants to talk can comment on my page. And so far I've gotten 4 responses from complete strangers, which is something amazing, that I think that someone with so little reach could just promote themselves, free advertisement, and get four completely unknown strangers to comment and to share their opinions. So all of the comments are in Spanish, and I'll show you later. But basically, you can see there are four pretty contrasting perspectives. One argues that the government is doing a poor job. One thinks that they're like doing their best. One thinks that the president's an anarcho-capitalist that doesn't care for the people, and some people are ashamed. Which it's important to see what the people are thinking, because you may have a completely different perspective than someone that's in a working class, or that someone that's you know going through a tough time because of the COVID pandemic. So it's really important to see that division, just so you get an understanding of the political mind of what's going on. And these are the tweets. And this was updated like when the project was due. So there's only 4 tweets, but now I have 7, and my account has 55 followers. Only just of promoting promoting myself, which it shows the power of social media, and it's kind of my statement of cyber power and how we can use cyber power to get an overall understanding of ideas, and how we can change things. So in conclusion, really this was just an experiment of activating the law of reciprocity in social media. And what we learned in a couple units before this is the politics of compassion. And you can't really apply it in a sense, but in a way you can, because compassionate acts, they create other compassionate acts. It's reciprocity. And in social media, when someone shares their opinion, people feel inclined to share their opinion, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, that's it. And wait, let me just go here so you can see it's my account. So this was the original tweet. I got in obviously new people. I don't know who this is. I don't know who this is either. But yeah, it's I thought it was really interesting. And what I would like for you guys to do, if you can, is do research on this, and I would love to see your comments there someday. So yeah, thank you. Any questions?